Good. All right, so take it away, Stafford.
Right,
Thanks a lot.
hi, everybody. I'm Stafford. I'm product manager for the Street View app and Street View experiences in Google Maps. I work alongside Charles Armstrong, who I'm sure many of you have met before. So both of us are really, really excited about all of your participation in the Street View program, and I've got some great stuff to show you today. We will make some time for Q&A at the end. This block was originally scheduled for 2 hours. I thought that was probably a bit much right before your lunch. So what I'm going to do is I'll make about 10 or 15 minutes at the end of this, and then I will invite all of you to just come nag me as much as possible with all of your questions for the rest of the, really the rest of the event. From some of the questions I've gotten so far, it seems like a lot of this stuff needs to be one-on-one troubleshooting, and I didn't want to trouble the entire audience with stuff like that. So if you have a question that's just generally concerning Street View, feel free to ask that at the end of this session. If it's something where you have specific panos that aren't working properly, come find me later and we'll take a look on the laptop. All right. So we had this cute video earlier. That was just to get you in the door. I'm having some Wi-Fi problems, so don't worry about that. You've probably seen it before anyway. Before we get started, we do have this exciting Street View challenge for you where you can win some great prizes and get your imagery featured on the Street View gallery. If you haven't yet, please go to the IVRPA website and take a look. The form is now up. It's on this page. So if you want to remember this, just take a picture. And I mean, I'm sure you've been to the site anyway. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh. And if you didn't get a picture of something, just bug somebody in a red shirt. Okay, so this is an exciting time for Street View because it's actually our 10th anniversary. And it's really more of our 13th anniversary if you look back to the beginnings of the program. So in 2004, Street View started when Larry Page tasked a group of people to drive around with a van with one of those like Thule boxes on the top that has cameras in it, and it was kind of a travesty, but it worked out really well in the end, and now we have fancy hardware and backpacks and tricycles and even tiny little cameras that you can fit in your pocket. So it's been a very exciting 10 years for us, and the last thing on this list, if you haven't seen it yet, the Vanuatu volcanoes, it's just absolutely phenomenal. We took a Street View backpack down to the boiling pit of lava in a volcano in the South Pacific. So this is my favorite collection yet. If you haven't yet, definitely take a look. So why do people like you contribute to Street View? It's fundamentally about sharing experiences with the world. And that could be experiences where you're paid to share. That could be experiences where you're doing it for a good cause. Those could be experiences where you just feel so passionate about your imagery that you need to get it out there to the world for them to see. And why do people view the content? To understand what it's like to be there. So we've shown this before. I'm sure last year you saw the same thing where we did the study, probably familiar with it, where we find that listings that have photos or Street View are twice as likely to generate interest as those that don't. And this makes sense, right? People want to understand in a very tactile, intuitive way what it's like to be at the place that they're investigating. Until recently, though, our tours really focused on small experiences, right? The tools only permitted you to build, I guess it kind of depended on how much time you wanted to put in, right? But it really just facilitated single business, single place tours, and it took a long time. And it was impossible to use really pro-level tools. We locked you into using the Street View editor, right? Even though we heard all of this feedback from you, that you were using very sophisticated tools on the desktop, and then having to migrate to this completely different workflow when it came time to publish. Okay, so going forward, we want to help everybody participate using the great tools that are available already in the community. And so we've developed this new program that we're calling Street View Ready that extends Street View to be much more of a platform than it ever has been before. And this is a platform where everybody can participate in the way that makes sense for them to join. There are 4 channels to this. Okay, they range from hardware to software. They range from consumer level to pro level, and I'm going to jump into a little bit more detail right now. So on the Street View Mobile Ready, we're talking about handheld cameras that interface with a phone, interface with the Street View app, where anybody can, even amateur people, can go around and add Street View very, very easily. Then we have this Auto Ready spec. And this is a little bit of a preview to some of the stuff I'm announcing later in the presentation. And these are cameras that have advanced sensors that are mountable on a car that allow you to drive around and actually make your own Street View car. So any car can be a Street View car. Then we have this exciting new category of VR-ready cameras. And these are cameras that collect geometry in addition to just collecting pixels. And these allow us to start working on next generation experiences for Street View that go light years beyond anything that we've seen so far. And last, we have the workflow ready category. And this can be software, but it could also be hardware. And the crux of this is that we're allowing anybody to build essentially the Street View editor, right? So that could be a desktop tool, that could be a web tool, or that could even be a mobile app. And what we're seeing already is that some camera manufacturers are building what looks a lot like the Street View app in their own tools. So this is great, right? No longer do you need to have one app for the camera, and then one app on the desktop, and then the Street View editor. You can have one app that does everything, and that's enabled by this platform. Here's a quick preview of some partners that we're working with already. A couple of them are here in this room. We're super fond of them. We love their stuff. Go talk to them in the marketplace downstairs, because there's just some phenomenal hardware that's coming this year. Over 20 partners are working with Street View this year to help us build out this platform. And I think in this list, there's something that meets all the demands in this room. There's not one camera that everybody needs to use, right? I think when we're here next year, you're not going to see every single person with a Theta. You're going to see, one person with a 360 fly and one person with a Sphericam, and you're going to have some people with hardware from NC Tech mounted on their cars, and it's going to be a very exciting time. So let's take a moment and talk about the efforts that we're working on to support contributors like you. I think we can all agree that sharing your world online is becoming a pretty standard part of life, right? So social media tools really empower this. People are posting photos, people are posting stories, updates every single day, right? I mean, I took a picture of this like mega schnitzel last night, and the first thing I did was post it online. I'm kind of getting tired of schnitzel, I have to say, but it was really good. Okay. So with the rapid advancements in spherical camera hardware, what we're starting to see is that you can have these cameras everywhere, right? Spherical photography is reaching a point where I think by 2018 we can actually call it ubiquitous. And what I'm talking about here in the summer of 2017 is kind of the preview to what's going to happen over the next 6 months. So whether you're a hobbyist, whether you're a professional, and I'm sorry, I tried to scrub the Theta pictures out of here, but at the end of the day, I know that there are a lot of opinions here. I'm going to get opinions in the Q&A. At the end of the day, I walk up a trail and I see these things. They're everywhere, and I think that that's good for our industry, and for good, right? There's been some amazing work done, particularly with Save the Rhinos, where we're bringing people into experiences that they could never, ever dream to have, except now they can on their couch. And it's giving them a real tactile understanding of I think, very important things in the world. So with Google Maps, we provide a platform that gives all of these audiences really the power of a global platform, right? And we heard this yesterday, that Maps can be a platform with global reach, where it can be one of many options for you to host stuff. And it can be a great free place for you to host things and then build extensible experiences on top of that. And what we're presenting here is an opportunity to grow awareness of 360 imagery and really extend the power of the Street View tools. And I have a number of programs that I'm going to talk about in a moment that we're expanding upon and growing this year. We really want to remove any barriers to allowing you to add Street View and really make a business on top of that. So, what are the problems here that we're trying to address? In many cases, consumers and contributors just don't know about 360 imagery. We're all gathered here because this is something that we're passionate about, but realistically, I think if you went down the street, most people just don't know what it is. And so what we're doing here is we're building out access to equipment and training and an advanced technology platform that puts this technology to use in a very compelling way. And so we have plans, and we have teams in place to help with both of these. A little bit about the goals for this year. We want to create strong and mutually beneficial connections with the partners like you, with contributors like you, and Google, as we all work to populate the map with beautiful and meaningful spherical imagery all around the globe. And we think that Street View is really, I think, the cornerstone of that experience. It's one of Google's most recognizable brands. I think it's our third most recognizable brand, right? And when people hear that, this is what they're thinking of. They're thinking of the Street View car. But what if your car could be the Street View car? Maybe that's not your car. Maybe your car is like mine, and it's like a crappy Honda Civic. But the point is that your car can now be a Street View car. And we're offering the tools and the technology to bring Street View to everybody. We've seen this already in our camera loan program. I'm going to provide a link, by the way, at the end of this. We do have a camera loan program where you can borrow cameras for free. Those can be Thetas, those can be Samsungs, those can be the 20 new cameras that are coming out this year, and that can be the Trekker backpack. But we've seen this in the camera loan program already, where people are putting cameras on cars and driving around and capturing streets that have never before been on Street View. Even streets like this, right? Now every street in the world you can put on Street View, and your car can be a Street View car. And not just cars, sheep. Yeah. No, actually, we love the Sheep View program. They did this without us. They didn't tell us at all. And this was phenomenal. And we did actually go to the Faroe Islands and take a backpack and do some more collection. But this is just so cute, right? And I love how, now that this hardware fits in the palm of your hand, the applications that are available. And I'm just blown away at this particular summit, all of the creative things that people are doing with hardware. It's amazing. And I'm happy that we're providing a platform that allows you to host that content for free. Another really cool thing that we just learned about, these guys also just took it upon their own volition to do this. This is the data bike that's being built by a team in Des Moines, Iowa. And it serves a few purposes. So this is a it's a Samsung. It's a Gear 360 2016 model on top of a bicycle. So they're collecting Street View for all of the parks and trails in the Des Moines area. Also looking at putting this on boats to do some creeks and some streams. But they're also collecting additional data that helps the park department learn more about what they need to do to improve the trails in their area. So this is super cool, right? It's a model where Street View is one part of a broader system where the business sees that, yes, there's some tourism benefit to collecting trail imagery, but we also want to understand, what's the quality of the trail? Are there potholes? Has the trail washed out? Do we need to fix it? Are there weeds growing in this area that we need to tend to? And I love seeing Street View at the intersection of all of these different benefits. And this is something that's only possible now that we're giving everybody the tools to create their own. If this was something where we took a backpack to these trails every 10 years, you can't accomplish any of these other goals that you can today. So we want to bring Street View and all of the tools of the platform to everybody to increase awareness that making your own Street View is more possible today than it ever has been before, especially in the sense of making your own Street View car. Right? I find that especially exciting here. And we want to get technology into your hands. We want to support you and support your journey to making and publishing your 360 stories along the way. So I'm going to give a short overview here of the different programs that we're working on this year to grow awareness and honestly to fix some of the problems that all of you have been telling us about over the past 2 years. I'm going to talk about 4 audiences here. The first is the community audience, and I think some of you feel like this audience is at odds with you. We don't see it that way. This is the local guides program that I'm talking about specifically, where we have these local guides that are altruistically contributing imagery to the map. And yeah, in some cases, it's like a plate of half-eaten spaghetti. And like we hear that from you, and we're working on fixing some of the problems that lead the plate of half-eaten spaghetti or the toilet or whatever. Yeah, like I've heard the toilet thing from you guys too, that sometimes the first thing we show for a business is a toilet. I'm sorry about that. But we're working on fixing that. We're working on our ranking, to solve some of these problems. But we still want to grow, right? And we still want to bring the power of 360 imagery to the whole world. And I think that all of us would agree that if the only people who take spherical photography are in this room today, then that's a failure for this world. We want everybody to have access to this. And so we'll be inviting local guides to join us in creating Street View. We're building out a program that we're calling Street View Experiences, where the most engaged local guides can apply to borrow cameras that actually fit on top of the car, that are driving capable, and to take part in events that help them canvas entire cities that maybe haven't had Street View updated in 3 years, or maybe haven't had Street View ever, and to do that with fellow local guides. And we want to demonstrate the power of engaged and active photographers in helping get entire cities on the map, both outdoor and indoor. Now, folks like you, right? Individual photographers, maybe organized as agencies, folks who make a living off of spherical photography. This year, we want to arm you with better data and better research to help you sell products and services to your customers. And we know that some of the studies available on the Street View website are 3 years old at this point, and that doesn't help you, right? And so we'll be working on updated research, updated case studies, updated maps user studies to give you these tools and these findings on hand as you go out and you sell spherical photography and communicate the value of that imagery to your clients. We also have a whole bunch of changes in direct response to the feedback that you've given us, and I'm going to keep teasing that, but it's around the end of this presentation, and I think you'll enjoy it. Another audience that we think can benefit from Street View is agencies in a different sense, right? In addition to marketing agencies, we think that tourism boards, destination marketing organizations, convention and visitor bureaus can benefit tremendously, and in fact work together with folks like you to achieve something together where both sides benefit. We've heard already from quite a few groups, and we're working to put those groups in touch with folks like you, that they want Street View updated. They don't just want indoor photography, they want outdoor photography as well. And so we're very excited that as we make the tools available for anybody to build their own Street View car, that you can do this, you can partner with these local groups, and they can actually give you money to go drive a Street View car. So this is a very exciting model for us. And lastly, there's this final group that we're calling Enterprise. And this gets back to what I was saying before with the data bike, that this isn't just about collecting pixels anymore. This is about deriving important information from those pixels that can only be obtained when you frequently refresh an area. And that's something that was never possible before with Street View, except in the densest of cities. Where now that we're in a world where anybody can get their own camera and make Street View, you can imagine an agency wanting to drive a city every month, for example. Maybe they want to count trees. Maybe they want to count light poles. Maybe they want to understand if roads are bumpy, right? One of the most exciting organizations that we're working with here is the International Road Assessment Program. And their goal is to rate road safety quality all throughout the world. And the way that they've been doing this so far is just putting GoPros on the front of cars and driving around and then having people in Bangalore, India, review that imagery, and say this, doesn't have a safety barrier in the middle. This is like so full of potholes that people are probably swerving and crashing into each other, stuff like that. And spherical imagery just works so much better for them, right? So now they have a way that they can create their own spherical imagery. They can host it for free on our platform. And we're even investigating ways that we could offer a data feedback loop to them. But even if we can't do that last part, the free hosting and the ability to refresh frequently and the ability to see everything in full 360 is just light years beyond what they've been doing with the GoPros so far. So we're super excited about the new opportunities that are available with this model, and we'd love to work with more and more and more of you over time to explore these and flesh them out. So getting back to the Street View Loans thing, if you don't know about Street View Loans, go to this link, sign up, tell us your great ideas. In 2016, we expanded camera loans to 13 countries, and we've lent over 500 cameras to folks borrowing cameras in these countries with really cool ideas. And these can be Thetas, they can be more sophisticated cameras, they can even be the Street View backpack. So in some locations this year, we'll be expanding our inventory of loan equipment to include driving-capable cameras, so that to create your own Street View car, you don't even need to buy any hardware. You just need to tell us that you're interested in driving an area, and we'll give you a camera to go make your own Street View car. You'll need to give it back, right? But generally speaking, as long as you're contributing, we let you keep the camera. So very exciting stuff here. If you have any interest at all in making your own Street View car, apply, please. There's no group out there that I'm more excited to give cameras to than the folks in this room. So please apply. Before I move on to the stuff that I promised, about changes that you've all been asking for, I do want to talk a little bit about Street View beyond just the traditional Street View experience, and that's moving Street View into the realm of VR. So you're probably familiar with Google Cardboard, which for anywhere between $5 and $20, you can have a VR experience with your phone. We've also added Street View to Daydream, which is Google's proprietary VR platform. And the Daydream experience gives you a much better headset. It also gives you a little wand controller. And I have to say that the Street View experience with the wand is just so good. Like, this is the way that I want to experience Street View from now on. I can't even go back to the tapping thing. Like, this is just so good. And if you haven't tried it, I really recommend finding a Daydream headset and giving it a go. Because it's just so easy and intuitive to navigate Street View this way. And lastly on this front, Expeditions. This is our program where, using Google Cardboard, we have virtual field trips for kids in classrooms around the world, and this allows them to experience places that they might never get to go to, and they can do all of this stuff in the classroom in the same day. Like, I'm going to go to Antarctica, I'm going to go to the Taj Mahal, I'm going to go to the Great Barrier Reef, I'm going to go to the moon. It's just, they get so excited. And I'm going to try to roll a video here for you. If my Wi-Fi is working. No. Okay, so this is like a super tear-jerking video that I was going to roll, but I'm having Wi-Fi problems, so let's skip that. Okay, here's the part that I think you've all been waiting for. This is how we support people like you. And the big elephant in the room is what happened with the Street View editor. And the story is really quite simple. The editor was built a long time ago. It was built on top of legacy pipelines, legacy platform. It was very unstable, and it really didn't work with much of our infrastructure. And you saw this all the time, right? It would go down. You'd have problems with tours. You'd have to contact support. It was just a pain. And it didn't work super well with your desktop editing tools either. So when we were here last year, we talked to you and we got an understanding of what do you actually want. And everybody was saying, we want desktop tools. Okay? We thought at first, hey, maybe we can, the world's moving to mobile, like mobile phones, or how everybody's uploading imagery to Google Maps today. Maybe we can just move to a mobile app. We had the Street View app, and we started making the Street View app better. And you probably noticed last year that the Street View app did get quite a bit better, and I'm going to go over some of that stuff here in a second. But after talking to you last year, we realized that wasn't enough. And I know that we dragged this out for a while, right? We said last year, hey, we're gonna shut this down in September. And we dragged it out, and we confused a lot of you. And the reason we dragged it out is because we weren't quite ready, right? We didn't want to jerk you around a lot. We didn't want to shut it down until there was something else that was equivalent or better. And so we worked on building this great platform that allows us to actually simplify photographer workflows and give everybody the chance to build the best editor possible. You don't have to wait on Google anymore, right? You can make the tools that work for you. You don't need to bug us for years for us to fix stuff. You can make great tools, and there are people here. Go talk to Thomas, go talk to Ellen. They've built amazing software on top of our platform that I'd say is light years beyond anything we did in the Street View editor. So this is all powered by the Street View Publish API, and it's currently in beta. Around the end of the month, we're going to make it available to everybody. But the tools that are built on top of this are available now. So what does this mean, the Street View Publish API? It means that anybody with a little bit of software writing expertise can build their own Street View tools. And you can upload, position, and connect your panos. And you can write software on mobile, desktop, even server side. And this flexibility really allows some interesting stuff to happen. So you could write a mobile app. You could completely replace the Street View app with something that you think is better. That's fine. Do that. I want to see that. I think that that's exciting. You can write a desktop tool that does everything the Street View editor did and more, right? You can integrate some open source libraries for image processing that make your life way easier than it ever was before, okay? Well, you can do that now. I think that that's great. And you can also write server flows. So maybe you're a camera manufacturer and you have your own image processing server. That can now talk directly to Street View and do uploads for us. So some manufacturers are investigating flows where they collect imagery, they upload unstitched content to our servers, and then to their servers, they stitch it, and then they send it to us. And maybe they want to do blurring, maybe they want to do face detection, whatever. That stuff's pretty easy these days with open source libraries, okay? So the exciting thing here, again, you can build what you want now. You don't need to wait for us. Now, here's the fun part, okay? Some upcoming stuff that I think is a nice response to the feedback you gave us last year and should really help you going forward. So this is like the most common request that I've gotten for both the Street View app and the API. So we're working on it. We're very close. We're a couple weeks away from having level support in the API. And this, I think, is really the last thing that's missing between the editor and the new platform. Okay, so the folks who are downstairs in the marketplace already have some insider knowledge of what's going to happen here. Yeah, just a few weeks, we'll have this. We're making some big improvements to connectivity. We've heard loud and clear that you don't want your business to automatically connect to the business next to it. And that totally makes sense, right? You shouldn't just be able to warp through a wall from like McDonald's to some cute clothing store. That just doesn't make any sense. And so we're fixing this so that the only thing that your business will connect to is the path outside. We still think that it's important that no Street View is an island, that you should be able to navigate seamlessly throughout your world, except in cases where there are actually islands. But there are even some people who want to put Street View on canoes, so who knows? But yeah, really keeping businesses separate here, but still allowing them to connect to paths in the outdoor world. In a similar vein, you shouldn't be able to just like jump out a window and land on the floor, right? So in conjunction with our level support and the connectivity upgrades, we should never have this happen again. I don't know, maybe you think this is a feature, right, that you can jump out this window and then land in this seat. That's kind of cool, but it's certainly not intentional. And then paths, right? Upgrading these individual dots to paths. If you go down the road and you create a series of interconnected panos that have line of sight between all of them and are reasonably spaced, you should be able to have a blue line at the end of the day, right? You're creating Street View. You're not creating photospheres. You're creating Street View. And we want this to feel like Street View. There should no longer be any distinction between the work that you do with your own Street View car and the Street View car that we have that has the fancy decals all over it. It just doesn't make sense, right? You're Street View contributors, we're Street View contributors. We should be one big happy family. This is probably the biggest one. I mean, I think if I were to look at all of the feedback that I've gotten over the past 2 days, this is the biggest one, that you don't want the toilet to be the first one, you don't want the half-eaten spaghetti to be the first one, even like an amateur photo versus a pro photo of the same food. That just doesn't make sense. So we're making some improvements to ranking that favor connectivity and favor beauty. So where we previously showed this first photo for this location, now we show the second. Or by now, I mean after we roll this out. So we're pretty pleased with the way that these improvements are going. There's a bunch of machine learning under the hood that's making this possible, and we're really excited by the potential to make this better. I think everybody working on this understands the arguments that you've been making to us. We get it. And test results also show that users care. Okay, so it's pretty clear cut. We want to make this work. Here's a very nice early sample of what's happening. On the same lines of ranking, we've gotten some feedback that Pegman drops are landing in unconnected photospheres. And so we're fixing this so that Pegman drops prioritize connected panos. Now separately, we're automatically connecting and positioning some of the orphan panos. That doesn't work everywhere. So in general, this will favor connected panos. Attribution, okay? You've probably noticed something like this before. All of these are inconsistencies in attribution between first-party content and stuff that you've contributed. So imagine if that looked like this instead. Just consistency across the board. These are screenshots from what's coming next. So expect this very, very, very soon. And time machine. This is fun, okay? But I also think it's important because what's going to happen when everybody has a Street View car? You're going to get a lot of people driving the same places, right? And we want that, right? We want you to be able to update the map every month or every week or every day, right? Because important stuff is happening. Okay, roads change, cities change, businesses turn over all the time. And it's very important that we can all update the map frequently. But we don't want your contributions to go away. Okay, we say that, hey, we're this free hosting platform for your Street View content. So we would be breaking our promise if we didn't have something like this that kept your content around for perpetuity. So going forward, we plan to integrate your content into Street View Time Machine. And when you capture that beautiful imagery of the cherry blossoms or that beautiful imagery of the fall leaves, you should be able to pull that up again. You should be able to link to that from your portfolio. You should be able to continue to explore that in Google Maps, even when somebody captures some new imagery the next summer. So in summary, Street View Publish API allows you to build your own Street View app. And we have lots of improvements coming soon to ranking, connectivity, attribution, and way, way, way more. So now, let's talk about how you can build your own Street View car. We talked about these 4 groups earlier, right? Communities, trusted pros, agencies, enterprises. I think everybody can really benefit from building your own Street View car. And I promised before I got into this, I'd give a recap of some of the stuff we added to the Street View app. So let's breeze through this real quick. In 2016, we really focused on making it fast and easy to create your own Street View. And so we rolled out stuff like interval capture, HDR, blurring, rights transfer, connection, editing in a much better way than we had before, by the way. If you haven't tried the Street View app in the past 6 months or so, try it again because we have this great new connection editing tool that's way less hacky than the previous version. And also live preview for supported cameras. So lots of new stuff in the Street View app. And again, we were trying, to be fair, to replace the Street View editor. So a lot of this stuff looks like the Street View editor. It's very advanced, more suited to folks like you. But again, we heard your feedback. We heard that you wanted flexibility. We heard that you wanted desktop editing tools. And so we went back to the drawing board and we made that happen. The Street View app is still better than ever. And in 2017, I guess we're in 2017, but you know, the rest of 2017 and beyond, it's going to get even better. And that's because we're rolling out driving mode. That means with any Street View ready camera, you just hit record and you go. There's no more of this hackiness around interval capture with, you know, the camera shutting off or the Street View app like getting overloaded, and like you all know the problems with interval capture. And we've reapproached that from the ground up, and I think you'll be very happy with what we have to say here. So the minimum requirements for the new stuff in the Street View app are going to be 4K video with onboard stitching or some sort of stitching that the user doesn't need to do themselves, and OSC, the Open Spherical Camera API version 2. So this, you can kind of see what's happening here, right? What we looked at was if we wanted to let people make their own Street View car, and we want them to capture imagery every 3 meters or less, you just can't do that when you have interval capture that's happening at 10 seconds. Like every 10 seconds, your car is like halfway across the block by then. That's ridiculous. Even on foot, you can walk 20 meters in 10 seconds, okay? So at that point on a windy trail, you're starting to break line of sight. So video is really the answer here. It's the only way that we can make this happen, because for a driving capable camera, even just at 30 miles an hour, I could do the math to convert, sorry, but even at a reasonable city speed, you need 5 frames per second. So video is the answer here. And 4K video is going to be the minimum. We're going to encourage higher resolution, obviously, and I think that as we get into 2018, that'll be even easier, right? But we didn't want to exclude people on the low end who can only get a cheaper camera, right? We think that Street View should be everywhere. We want every street in the world. We want folks who don't have access to expensive technology to participate. But for folks who do, for the professionals like you, I strongly recommend the cameras for the folks who are the manufacturers that are in this room. It's just great stuff, really great stuff, and much higher resolution than 4K. So now anybody can drive a Street View car or bike or other bike or boat or whatever. So what does this look like? I'm going to share some unreleased product screenshots here. So you get into the Street View app, we give you this nice shiny preview screen. Try auto mode, right? And this will be available in the next version of the Street View app. If it's not, it'll be in the version after that. But it should be in the next version. To get started, just like you do today, you connect a camera, you click the blue button. And we bring you into this new capture UI that really puts the pixels first. Okay, live preview is front and center. It's not buried in some secret menu. It's right here. You can flip between single capture and auto capture. That's all it takes, just single or auto, and then you press the button. And once you do press the button, just start moving, okay? And we do all the hard work of picking the right frames and auto-connecting them. All you need to do is drive, or bike, or walk, or boat, or fly, or whatever. You monitor your progress. You can plan your next steps. You can watch your stats go up. And then you're done. Copy it from the camera. You publish. You can see it. You can review it before you publish, okay? Maybe you want to see the full screen preview. Again, we track your progress on the map. That's all there is to it. Here's a quick example, just proving that this is possible and it's not complete vaporware. You can see this live on Google Maps, by the way, if you go to that short link up there. This was using a 2016 generation Gear 360 in video mode. So if you're familiar with that, it records at slightly less than 4K. We just put it on top of I think this is some guy's like beater truck from the 1980s, I don't know. But so like any car can really be a Street View car. But this worked. We using the GPS from the phone, we snapped it to these roads. It connected very, very nicely. It posed very, very nicely. So the connections are in the direction of travel. So this works. Now we're really excited about next generation hardware that's starting to become, current generation, since we're already in the summer, because it means that we can actually record pixels that people want to see. But I think we could all agree this is better than nothing. If you're in a country that's never had Street View before, I'd rather see this than nothing. But I'd even still like to see the 6K, the 8K, the 12K resolution cameras that some of the folks are starting to build out right now. So back to the app. The video, the track, these appear in the private tab of the app. You can review your recordings, you can publish them. Note that we do publish as still frames, right? So you might also want to publish your video to YouTube. We get that. We're going to make that super easy. Okay, we don't want you to feel like you're throwing something away when you publish to Street View. We keep your video safe. We let you publish it to YouTube, let you publish to Facebook, whatever. That's yours. We're just one of many places that you can share your content. And you can chart your overall progress. So if your goal is, I want to cover my entire city, I want to do that every month, we make it super easy for you to track where you've been and where you want to go. One other super exciting thing here. One of the questions we get is like, why should I do this? Why should I spend my time doing this? I'm a professional. I make money from my photography. I don't just do this for free. We see this as a pretty cool way for you to get advertising, for you to tell people in your market that you are the Street View professional for your world. And so we're making some changes, some policy changes to the nadir cap branding, so that for the bottom portion of the images where the car would normally be, we're going to explicitly allow you to put branding there and to actually extend a little bit beyond the current policies. So, we figured you were going to do this anyway with bumper stickers on top of your car. So let's just make it easy. Let's allow you to digitally insert nadir cap branding. So long term, we want to add some tools that make it easier from the Street View app to do this yourself. But in the short term, we're working with some of the different partners for cameras and software to integrate some nadir cap branding options. So I'm super excited about this. If you're from the States, you're probably familiar with the concept of adopt a highway. That's basically what we're talking about here. Instead of going and picking up trash on the side of the road to get your name on some little sign, here you can get your name on every single pano of Street View in your area. So again, this is all platform stuff. So your app, if you're a developer, can offer driving mode too. You can build a Street View app and more, because Street View going forward is a platform. We built all of this functionality on top of the very same API that we're giving available to all of you for free. So please, if you have a better idea for how to build a Street View app, go do it, okay? Help everybody else out in this room by building your version of the Street View app that works specifically for you. I like to close on cats. There's a cat island in Japan. There's wayward cats, but they're nice wayward cats. They're not mean ones. They're just playing with the Street View backpack here. So this is another reminder that if you haven't checked out the Street View loan program before, please do g.co/streetviewloans. All right. I'm going to leave the cats up here while you ask me your tough questions. So if you're going to ask something really mean to Google, just look at the cats first.
Okay, questions. Just a reminder, make sure these questions are not just about your own particular troubleshooting. You can grab him later and pick his brains for that. And also remember, wait for the microphone so that it's part of the recording. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First of all, driving mode looks great, but we've been doing 360 video now for a few years. Thomas Hayden actually is part of our partners in 360 Labs. Started with immersive media back when they first started with the large dodeca cameras, etc. But he's always wanted me to ask, when are you going to press the play button on Google Maps so that we can actually incorporate video along with the Google Maps atmosphere and even put our other experiences in video on the maps as well?
Wow, I would love to do this, okay? I think it's a super cool idea. My dream for spherical video on Google Maps would be something where, like, you could be checking out a hotel room, like one of those cool bungalows that has a glass bottom over the ocean, and you could just be there in a pano, and there's like a light looping wave action below you. That would just be so cool and immersive. The fact is that it's taken us so much work to just get this driving mode stuff working. There we're not even surfacing video, we're just extracting frames. I would love to explore this. It would, there's a lot of negotiation that would need to happen for that to work. So just know that it's something that I personally am excited about. I will continue to campaign in that area, but I can't make any promises because there are a lot of dependencies there that are pretty non-trivial to resolve.
So over here. So I really enjoyed the idea of the street view cars, but I'm wondering what is the approval process of that footage? Because I could see that anybody who wants to have their logo on Street View may drive every day, and then there may be other 10 people doing the same with their own logo. So you may have 10 different inputs, and then how do you pick the best one?
Yep, so there is no approval process. You publish it and it's there. And it's there until somebody reports that you photographed something inappropriate and it gets taken down or whatever. It's there until it's moderated out. So most of the time it's there forever. In terms of what happens when a bunch of people drive the same area, that's where we get into the time machine stuff. We are planning to offer that as a way to help deal with that problem. I know that the main motivator for you creating the imagery is for it to be the default. And that comes down to the same sort of ranking that we have today. So even with the Street View car, we don't always show the most recent stuff. We do a bunch of analysis to understand what is the best thing for people to see. And so going forward, the same sorts of algorithms that power all of the different photo ranking already will rank street level imagery. For the most part, we're going to prioritize recency. But in the event that there's a significant quality difference, for example, then that needs to be fed into the algorithm. And we'd probably, if they're very close in time to each other, we'd pick the higher quality version. Same thing with like different lighting conditions. You might have the best camera ever, but if it's covered in rain, then it's like, sorry, we're going to pick something else.
Hi there, thanks very much. I'm quite interested in the use of this for local governments for checking their potholes and all the rest of it. I think that's it's not a novel application, but it's a good application. And I just wanted to know, I don't want to be a trusted photographer. I don't want to be an agency. I've been bitten by all that in the past. My ego won't let me go down that route again. So can I go to a local authority and actually charge money for doing street view style photography, but upload outside of that trusted or agency arrangement? Yeah,
there are no requirements around participation in any of those programs to upload. So yeah, I think we do give you some branding elements as a carrot for participation in those programs. But no, if you want to go create Street View, you don't need to be part of any program. You can just be you. And we'd love to see you participate.
I'm a diver. Outside Palau, about 60 feet down, a place called Blue Corner. Can I do that and get it published?
Yes.
Okay.
You will need to find the right hardware.
Oh, not a problem.
Please don't, well, actually, no, sorry, I can't make any recommendations around hardware publicly. You all know what not to use, so you probably have some idea of what to use too.
And the second thing, can you guys make it easier for the retailer to get that 4-number postcard rather than waiting 6 months to change their own pictures and everything? Because I get asked that all the time, and it just puts it at odds, waiting for them to get that postcard and they never get it. It'd be nice if they had a way to call up and updated everything, and then.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I've at the Tokyo Summit that we did 3 weeks ago, there was a lot of feedback in the same vein that that we want Google My Business to be faster and more integrated with Street View. So it's been a bit too soon for me to dig into that. This is like the third conference in a different time zone that I've been in the past month, but that is something that I plan to go back and investigate, because it totally makes sense, right? That if you're working with a business to both get their listing set up correctly and get their imagery set up correctly, and they're both Google Maps, like that should just be seamless. So I don't have anything to offer you right now, other than you are probably the 10th person to suggest the same thing, and I'm definitely going to go back and talk about it. Like my business is a separate program. Like anything around the photo stuff in my business, I'm not super well qualified to answer, but I'll go back and take a look.
Hi. Are you actively encouraging or discouraging aerial or other non-ground-based capture?
No. No, on both fronts. Like I'm not actively encouraging or discouraging it. I think it's super cool personally. You could publish it. It doesn't really fit anywhere in the program, but you can publish it. Like and you can use us as a free hosting solution for that if you want to go build your own experiences later, like the folks yesterday did. I would love to do more cool stuff with drones, personally. From a program perspective, it's more about building your own Street View car.
Hello. I wanted to know if there is any change in the download policy for pictures. Because as far as I've seen, I can download any type of picture from Street View with a formal copyright policy, formally written, but in fact anybody can copy that picture, which maybe for some streets has no meaning, of course, but for some monuments might have some meaning, especially for some professional. And I can find that that image is done, republished, modified, and republished by somebody else in the world. Is that policy continuously applied?
You'll have to show me how you're downloading Street View content, because
You go to the desktop, you press, and you enter, and you get the download or whatever you like, in the same size as it was loaded, including the watermark if you apply the watermark, but the watermark anybody in this room can easily patch out, you republish with your own name, with your own watermark.
So let's talk later. There are terms of service in place around your rights to Google Maps content. I don't believe we give you a perpetual license to download.
No, you don't give a perpetual license. But the fact is a bit different. Is that that picture that has been shot, let's say, quote unquote, professionally, so not just as a 3-meter shot from a car, which is an important issue, but of course is a different style, a different approach. You get that image that is going through the network, is published on Facebook or is published somewhere else with somebody else's name and authoring.
Yeah. So there are APIs. The Google Maps APIs allow you to download, to access Street View imagery, right, and build your own applications on that. You've seen like hyperlapse tools and things like that do this. Those don't give you the right to store that indefinitely. There's technically, I think, a 30-day caching policy or something around that. I fully respect the rights of contributors there, and our intention is not to make it easy to keep Google Maps imagery forever, right? And we fight that. I think everybody in this room also knows that once you see pixels online, there's not a lot you can do to keep people from downloading and reproducing them. I mean, it's like even, you see this on YouTube too, right? Like it's explicitly prohibited, and yet there are tons of sites out there that let you do that. So there's a limit to what extent we can fight. You can call it piracy, call it whatever you want, of content, but we'll do our best. We will continue to do our best. I can't guarantee you that we can prevent somebody from copying pixels once they're seen.
Just to redefine, there is some tools in some browsers that enable like people who didn't upload the panorama to download it. Maybe
Right.
that's the question.
Okay, yeah. So I don't.
That's maybe his concern that some people
I don't
abuse
think
the copyright.
I don't think Google Maps offers a download capability. I do know that there is an API that gives you access to Street View, and this API has been used to do things that otherwise violate the terms of service. I am in close contact with the API team. This is not something that, we don't want to allow people to violate the terms of service easily. We're working on efforts to fight this in other realms as well, like satellite imagery. We could talk indefinitely about this. We're working on it.
Stafford, there's just a download link on top. Everybody can download the image.
Really?
It's just one click away.
Oh.
For everybody.
Huh. Anyway, I'll take a look.
Hi. I've been reluctant to do any upload on Google Maps since ever. But actually, I have a project with one of my clients, and of course, we're going to build a regular high-end virtual tour, but I would like to also post these images on maps. And all these businesses already have their Google images. And I would like to know if it's possible to first of all, replace these old image and prevent anybody else to use your time machine system to bump my image.
So with respect to the first question, you're talking about outside Street View or inside Street View?
Yes, both.
So our intention is to allow you to update the default Street View imagery for that place, even if the Street View car, even if the first party Street View car came before you, okay? As far as locking that down, we don't have any plans to allow you to lock it in place. We do, just like all of the other ranking stuff that I talked about before, we do want to prioritize higher quality stuff over lower quality stuff. So that if the main concern here is, somebody else is going to drive around with some cheap camera and overwrite this great imagery with, lower quality stuff, we are trying to make that not happen. And we're trying to make that not happen for indoor stuff as well. But at the end of the day, no, we don't have any plan to allow you either for indoor or outdoor to completely lock down an area.
We are running a little bit behind, so we've got time for one more quick question.
So you mentioned briefly, you mentioned briefly some of the characteristics of how you're going to rank content as more engaging. Is that going to be mainly traffic driven? Is there certain types of engagement you're looking for? How do you define what's engaging content?
Yeah, so today, are you referring to ranking, or are you?
Yeah, specifically for ranking.
Yeah, so today, ranking is primarily driven by engagement. And that's we look at, we run all of these micro experiments and we figure out what people are clicking on and what they're not clicking on, and that's how you end up with, some of the issues you have today, where sometimes people are just clicking on that picture of food because it looks interesting. And it's maybe not the most representative photo of a place, but they're clicking on it. So, I think that real experimental data will continue to be a factor in ranking, but we also see that it's not the only factor. And so we want to augment that with additional stuff like a machine learning-based approach to beauty. And we've done some studies that indicate that more beautiful photos actually provide a more representative picture of the place and help users make decisions around where to go. That they might be, psychotically driven to clicking on the half-eaten plate of spaghetti. That's not necessarily the right thing for them. You see this all across social media, right? That we get these feedback loops around engagement where we try to feed more and more and more around what people are clicking on, and it's not necessarily the only solution to everything. And so we get that. We're working on augmenting that with additional signals that should break some of those feedback loops and allow you to really show off a representative image for the place. Much more to come on this at future summits. There's only so much that I can share now, but our initial findings have been very, very good. We're much more pleased with it. We think that it'll resolve a lot of the complaints that we've been hearing, and hopefully it gives us something to talk about next year. So feel free to find me later.
Okay, thank you very much, Stafford. I'm sure you're going to be swamped.